Yo, what is going on, guys? Freaky Trades here, bringing you another new weekly stock watch list. Before we get started, though, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'd really appreciate it here at Stock Hours. And without much more being said, let's go ahead and dive into the watch list. So, as far as this week go for earnings, it is super dry. There is not too much going on that I am personally keeping an eye out for. You have stocks like CrowdStrike reporting on Tuesday, AVGO, DocU on Thursday after close. These really niche, weird stocks that I used to look at. Don't really look at them anymore. Lulu, that's another great stock that I know could have potential big moves behind it. But as far as any of the main tech stocks go, there really isn't too much going on that I'm keeping an eye out for that I'm really interested on. So earnings week, pretty dry for this incoming week. Next up, we can go ahead and dive into the watch list. So first things first, you guys know I like to cover ES here. On ES, on the daily chart, you can see that we are still currently stuck in a range between 6,000 and 5,800, if my chart doesn't mess up here. Now, yes, we have broken below 5,800, but we wicked off a trend line, and we actually closed above 5,800 on the daily chart. So we're still considered to be in a range for this week, and for this week only potentially, depends how it plays out. I am keeping an eye out for the range that we developed this entire week from Tuesday, since it was a 4-day week. I'm keeping an eye out for 5850, since that is around the range that we created, around 5860 to 5850 for a breakout to the downside, with 5800 having to close below there, obviously. And then as far as the upside goes, going to be looking at 6,000. Upside, there really isn't much more left to look at. It's really just the top of the range that we're stuck at. And then, like I said, this is the range that we were stuck in for this entire previous week from Tuesday to Friday, around this 5860 to 5850 with the bottom of the range. So that's what I'm keeping an eye out for on ES, and it's kind of a similar story here on NQ. If we go to NQ here on the 1 hour on the daily chart, you guys will see what I'm talking about. On the daily here, you can see that we're currently stuck between 21,000 and we were stuck between 21,500, and we had broken out pre-market on Wednesday, I believe, and then as soon as market was getting ready to open, some more news came out, and it drove, or not, actually this was Thursday, and the market decided to sell off. And we had no solid closes above this either on the daily chart. So I still consider us stuck between a range between 21,500 and 21,000. You can see both times that we tried breaking out and breaking down, we haven't had a single solid close above or below those levels. So that's what I'm keeping an eye out for this week on NQ. Pretty straightforward. Now, as far as the watch list goes, it is relatively short. There isn't too much going on, so I'm just going to go over the main stocks because the other setups that I have on the side watch list aren't really good setups, and they're pretty mediocre, so I don't want to give you guys pretty trash setups. So as far as Microsoft goes, for this entire week, we were stuck between a range between 456 and around 463. So for this week currently, going into tomorrow and potentially Tuesday, or who knows, right, whenever this setup comes around, I'm only going to be focused on the upside. That's where the real setup is for me currently, which is around this 463 area where we have been consolidating. You can see that the opening high, if I go to the 30-minute here, it was 462.50. And then after hours that day, we ended up making a high at 463. And then pre-market, we ended up getting stuck at 462.50. And the closest we got to that was around 461.70. And you can see that was around the rejection we had on late day Friday as well. So going forward on Microsoft here, I will be looking to take an entry at around 462.50. I'm not too comfortable with 462. I think it's a little too early for a stock like Microsoft, especially with this kind of resistance we had at this 50-cent mark. But it also depends, right? Microsoft could be looking really strong ahead during pre-market, and that could be a reason why we take it at 462. But for the meantime, I'm going to keep things pretty simple and look to take my entry at around 462.50 with a target of 463. You don't need a big move on Microsoft to have a big percentage gain or make a lot of money on it. A 50-cent move on Microsoft, especially with the premium slipping with how volatile it can be, is more than enough for me to want to take a trade on this, especially with how choppy the price action has been in the market. I want to be as careful as possible and just stick to my scalping strategy that I personally like, and that suits me. Last but not least is Tesla. Now, Tesla is a little tricky here because obviously on the daily we did break out, and it actually did hold above the breakout range that we were getting stuck in, and we're back below it. 350 was the breakout range to the upside. We broke above it. We held above it for a few days. It was ahead of the market, and then we ended up selling off on Friday with Tesla. So the thing that I'm keeping my eye out for that could potentially break and most likely will is 345 currently. Now, the reason why Tesla is on my watch list, even though 345 could break going into tomorrow because of how close it is to the downside here with this flat bottom we have, Is because of the liquidity and follow through that Tesla tends to have with the market. It's a really consistent stock to look at. It has a lot of liquidity on not just only the stock, but also the options, which is what we mainly trade in stock hours, how we're able to capitalize on these quick, short moves that are able to pay out 10 to 20% at times, even more, depending on the move we get, right, in the setup. So, but yeah, Tesla 345 or maybe even more downside this week. Obviously, 330 would be the ideal area that I want to keep an eye out for on Tesla if we happen to come all the way down there. But for the meantime, I think playing within this range is entirely fine. You just need to make sure your catalysts are lining up and make sure the play itself actually makes sense. So, but yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the watch list. Like I said, it was going to be pretty short. There isn't too much going on. I'm not willing to give you guys trash, even if the setups are future setups. They're really far away. It's nothing too crazy to write home about. So, with that being said, though, hope you guys enjoyed the video and you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Before you leave, though, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'd really appreciate it. And yeah, you guys take care, and we'll see you next week. Peace out.